Welcome back to the Step It Up Entrepreneur Podcast. Your host, Thomas Keenan, coming at you. This is going to be episode 200 and something. We just actually today, before I announce today's guest, very excited for this. And people who know me know that I don't get excited for much in life. Like I'm just even keeled throughout the day. Not much rattles me. However, this morning at 6 a.m., our 200th episode of this podcast went live. We had Sean Clark, the CEO and co-founder of High Level on, and it was a great conversation. But today, which is more important because that's in the past, we have the amazing Steve Sims as a guest. Welcome, sir. I want to dive in. I've got so many questions for you. My brain is running 100 miles a minute right now.
I'm just jealous that Sean got number 200. I know Sean, and now I'm upset. So I'm not going to talk to you anymore.
You know, it's funny because the day that we connected, courtesy of social media, which is a blessing and a curse at the same time, the day that we connected was the day that I had recorded with him, or maybe a day after. So you literally just missed the opportunity to come in for the.
Let's be serious. He's smarter than me. You know, I keynoted at that first ever Go High Level event with my buddy Frank Kern, and those guys are top draw. And that was that first event. And I'll tell you, I'd put that toe to toe with events that have been around for 10, 20 years. Those guys really know how to put something together, both in an event and in their business. So Sean, and for the entire founders and crew at GHL, you know, much love to you boys out there, but having Sean on your 200, that's no insignificant feat.
Yeah. I appreciate that. Coming up here in about 2 weeks or so from the day of us recording, this is going to be the next level up event here in Dallas.
Yeah.
Which is cool. So I'm going. The timing was it's funny how things work out, right? I purchased a VIP ticket to this event a year ago or so. Whenever they started sending emails, I was like, oh, let me grab one of those because I'm definitely interested. And I mean, I live here in Dallas too. So it's a 40-minute drive and I'm there. I get this whole thing going. I'm over here doing my thing, paying attention to myself, being selfish to me, which I think is very important for multiple reasons. And this opportunity comes across my plate, across my email, actually. Someone on his team reached out and said, hey, we've been noticing your podcast. Would you be interested in? Well, yeah, duh. Of course I would.
Yeah.
Right. But the timing of it's just spectacular because I've had no direct conversation or interaction with Sean at all up until this point. And here we are a handful of weeks prior to an in-person event that we're both going to attend. And now there's an icebreaker that's already in place because we've already spoken for over an hour.
Yeah, my son's actually, sadly, I can't make this one, but Henry, who's my partner in Sims Distillery and a couple of other things within the group, he's actually going along. So you're going to have a great time. Him, Chase, all the boys over there, you're going to have a great time. And the ladies, I should say.
I'm looking forward to it. All right. Enough of that nonsense. I want to dive in. For those who don't know you, you've got a hell of a history, sir. You've a ton of accomplishments, published author, entrepreneur. If you want to use the term serial entrepreneur, you probably can with some of the things that you've done and things you have going on currently right now. You do a lot of public speaking, a lot of events, and you're at a period or point in your career now where you're giving back and helping other entrepreneurs.
Yes, God, you had me up until the last moment there. My background's been very colorful. I was a bricklayer in East London, you know, poor as shit, like, you know, most people that grow up in that kind of environment. But something inside me, and this is the same with all entrepreneurs, something inside me didn't sit right. And I was thinking, hang on, I'm getting up at like 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm working till 8 o'clock at the night. I'm getting rained on shit, on frozen. I'm cold, I'm bashed, I'm beaten up. So I've got the work hard mentality, but I ain't making the money. So why not? So I actually went out to try and find out where rich people, at the time I was looking for rich people, where rich people hung out. So I was literally turning up at bars, wine bars, restaurants, clubs, society events, these kind of things to try and find out, are they different to me? You know, is there something that makes them wealthy and not me? Along the way, and I don't really know, you know, you can look at the stepping stones, but along the way, I ended up becoming the Mr. Fixit and the Mr. Go-To guy, because I knew full well that if I was to have a conversation with someone smarter, richer, wealthier than me, I had to bring value to the table. I had to bring something to the party.
Mhm.
And of course, I knew I was a doorman of a nightclub at the time. So I knew where all the nightclubs were, and I knew where all the parties were and the premieres were. So I started looking at the rich people in my kind of clubs, pubs, and venues and getting them into these things. Not because I wanted them to hang out with Elton John, or not because I wanted them to kind of like, hang out with Richard Branson, but because if I gave them a good story and a good memory and a good trigger, they would have a drink with me the following day and give me that wisdom. I've always said that I was basically podcasting in the late 90s before podcasting invented. But that kind of grew into a very successful concierge firm for billionaires. Along the way, I wrote Bluefishing, The Art of Making Things Happen, and then my latest book, GoForStupid.com. And then something happened, which was weird. And things as entrepreneurs, things just click, don't they? Or they aggravate, but they create a requirement to act on it. And I woke up one day, and my wife says I get angry really easily. I get agitated, I get aggravated, and I suddenly noticed, and this was during COVID, how prima donna entitled pricks that most of society had become. And we were all moaning, oh, we can't go out and connect with people, when we were pretty shit at it before COVID. And I was thinking to myself, everyone now is hell-bent on the cancel culture and the gotcha society. What did you get up to in 1983, which is so wrong, I can now cancel your career? Now, let's be serious. We were all freaking idiots in 1983.
1,000%.
Most of us are really happy there were no cameras in the 80s and 90s. Let's be honest.
Right here. I agree.
Oh, yeah. I was watching a program the other day. Everyone's heard of it. Friends. Okay. And someone said to me, because they were watching it, they went, well, that show couldn't air today. And you're right. Even a comedy show like Friends couldn't air today because everyone's so woke up their ass. Yeah. And it just got annoying. And we were missing out on the one primitive factor. We are human beings. And we have a dying urge to connect with other people that share the same value and support that we do. Now, whether or not you've got an identity crisis, whether or not you're male, female, teenager, or whatever, we want to connect. And we've just spoken about go high level. And you had an obvious tempo that you were excited to go and stand in a room full of people that wanted an unfair advantage on technology. And let's be serious, the art of communication. So I wrote the book, Go for Stupid. And then I thought to myself, I want to give it away. I want people to actually be able to go and get it, learn from it, and then action it. And it annoys me because most people that get it are going to do nothing with it. I can't control that. But if 10% of the people did something with it, they now become the gigantics. They now become the tribal leaders. They now become the people that stand out. And today, we all want to stand out as brilliant. We all want to stand out as focusing on our business or becoming the solution to other people's problems. But most people today, they stand out by first fitting in. And that's wrong. And so I'm trying to disrupt that. I'm trying to aggravate people enough to know that if they don't action it, they're going to end up becoming those people they hate. And I remember a good friend of mine, Joe Polish, gave me probably one of the most earth-shattering quotes that still disturbs me today and basically gets me going every time that I'm a little bit down. He said, the definition of hell is to meet the man or woman you could have been. And that's it. If I'm sitting there and I'm sitting there and I'm looking at my collection of bikes, or I'm sitting up here in the hills and I'm, looking at the bank account and going, well, I ain't got to worry again. If I'm doing any of that, I go, well, hang on a minute. What could I become in the next 3 to 6 months? And it pushes me forward every single time.
All right. So fantastic right there. And I align with the big time. I think there's periods in the entrepreneurial journey. You may attain certain goals, certain status levels. You got the things, the accomplishments. What is it that is the trigger for you that tells you every so often to go and reevaluate where you are and what you're trying to do?
Oh, I love the way you say that. You say evaluate. I audit. I actually ferociously audit. In fact, it happened, I think, maybe 7 days ago. I will literally, in my calendar, have an audit for every 6 months. 6 months. And I'll go, where am I? What am I doing? And was this the trajectory that I wanted to be on? Was this the journey I wanted to be on last 6 months? Now, of course, something may come. You may have a conversation when you're in Dallas in a few days' time or a few weeks' time, and it may send you off on a different route that could be a better route. So your trajectory doesn't have to be, oh, I'm well off path. It could be, hey, an opportunity was provided to me and I took it. And now I'm on this journey. Right, now let's reevaluate where my journey's going. So I do check myself quite often. I also actually Google myself. And I actually put this up on Facebook the other day, and it kind of made me giggle. I literally put up there, who Googles themselves? And a whole ton of people were like, no, I don't care what other people think. Oh, that's egotistical. And, oh, no, I'm not that kind of person. I'm not a Kardashian, blah, blah, blah. Don't you want to be seeing?
Can I interrupt you a second? Those are the people who have no status whatsoever on Google.
To a point. Sorry, my dogs are kicking off.
That's fine.
To a point. There are also some people that are naive to marketing, media, and branding. And we all need to. You see, I remember when ChatGPT came out. I went on to ChatGPT and I said, look, is Steve Sims a good coach? Now, I've been coaching for years of my life. And I got the answer that Steve Sims is a good coach, although some of his methods have been questionable. And you're going to love this bit. And the assault charge didn't help his reputation. And I'm like, hang on a minute. What are you? And that was ChatGPT. Yeah. Turned out there was a hockey coach called Steve Sims that had beat up one of his players for not doing a play or something and got an assault charge on him. So had I not known about that, I couldn't have gone, hey, my name's Steve Sims. By the way, I know fuck all about hockey. I couldn't have got rid of that. Someone could have Googled in there, or even worse, gone into ChatGPT and asked that question, got that answer, and made an assumption that we were the same person. Yeah. So you need the not the advantage, not the ego. You need the clarity of what someone else is seeing.
Yeah, I think that's very valid. I don't think it's a bad thing to go and Google yourself personally.
Off from it. It's a smart thing. You look, we're all in a perception reality. If people are talking about it, it's real, regardless. The public court of opinion. So you've got to know what they're saying. You've got to know what they're getting, because if they're getting a mixed message, it's because that's what you're communicating. Yeah. My beauty is that I've never been, a wordsmith. I've never been someone that's too over the top with what they're trying to say. I'll be the kind of guy that goes, hey, you want to do that? Yes or no? Hey, I'm the guy that does this. I don't do that, but I'll do that twice as hard as anyone else. I produce clarity in my message. And in a world of mass distraction and distortion that we are in today, not a recession, the distraction and distortion we're in today, we are looking for connectivity and we are looking for clarity. You need to be able to come up to me and go, do I want to be part of this guy's circle or do I not? And I need to make it impossible to misunderstand so that you can make a educated yes or no.
Yeah. The intent there, and I'm the same way. I want to be a polarizing individual. It's going to be cut or dry. Absolutely. You either adore me and love me and want everything to do with me, or you want nothing to do with me whatsoever. And I'm good either way.
And the downside, and it's today in marketing and media, is you try to capture so many people in your funnels. You capture the wrong people. Yeah. And then you try changing your persona to turkey shoot all of them, and you end up with a whole bunch of clients or prospects that are not only wasting your time, but shouldn't even be in your sandpit.
Not at all. They're just not the right fit from many different perspectives. Okay.
Exactly.
I've got some questions here for you, right?
Go ahead.
I recently was doing some homework on you and watched a good chunk of your interview, your podcast interview, and your website with Jay Abraham.
Oh, Jay, my boy.
Yeah. You were talking heavily on that interview about your beliefs in communication. And I'm going to stick here in communication for a minute because communication is a very big deal for me as an individual and a business owner. It's one of my personal core values and it's one of my business core values and always will be. I believe in open, direct, authentic, and proactive communication.
Yep.
And without it, shit just goes sideways. My belief is that if you trace back 99.9% of any issues or challenges you face in your company, it all circles back to a communication breakdown at some point in time in the past.
Yep, totally agree.
So you were talking heavily with Jay about how we're doing communication wrong these days and how you have a much more of an old school approach, an 80s approach, you called it, to communication, which is actually go have the conversation, go knock on the person's door, go interact with them. Could you expand on that a little bit and kind of give some old school game to the new dudes who are listening to this, who are scared shitless to pick up the phone and call somebody?
Well, see, here's the funny thing, and my wife finds this hysterical because if anyone can't see this, and they're just listening to it on audio or they're driving down the road or something like that, I'm not warm and fuzzy. I'm 240 pounds of bald biker, tats, piercings, all the usual shit. So if I'm walking down the corridor to see you and I don't have a warm, grinny face, you know I'm there 9 times out of 10. It's kind of like, holy shit, you know, do I owe someone some money, you know? But I'm a great believer that the planet's got really bad at communication. And here's the dumb thing. And again, this is what Claire laughs at. I get paid a disgusting amount of money to fly around the world. Japan, Venice, I was in recently, London, Paris, LA, all over the place, to speak about the art of communication. The only reason I get paid so well to speak about communication is because everyone else has got so bad at it. It's as simple as that. So what I do is I'm old school, okay? Hey, I'd like to talk to you about so-and-so. In fact, I'm actually in your area. I spoke to someone. I worked for Elton John for 8 years, and I found out who was running this charity event. And so he was in Los Angeles. So I contacted him, and we had a quick conversation. And I said, look, I'd like to take this further. You know, I'll reach out to you in a few days' time. And I texted him, and I said, hey, I've just realized I'm in your – no, I live in LA. I said, I realized that I'm in your area in a couple of weeks' time. I said, so, you know, let's have lunch. You know, you got to eat lunch. Good. Let's have lunch together.
Sure.
And he was like, great. You're in New York. And I'm like, shit, no, I'm in LA. You know, I didn't know you were. So what did I do? I went, absolutely I am.
Yes,
Give
you
me
are.
your address. And I hung up and I went, Claire, I'm going to New York next week. You know, and I flew to New York literally for lunch. And I ended up working for him for 8 years. So not a bad little gig.
Yeah.
But the bottom line of it is we throw out an email. We throw out a text. Nothing else. And pray that it's going to land on the problem and expose itself as a solution with the other 1,000 people that did the same.
Yeah.
You've got to do today what other people aren't daring to do. I will quite often, because let's be serious, we don't like answering the phone today because we're scared it's a scam call. You know, it's Bobby from New Delhi or something. So I will actually text and I'll go, hey, just want you to know that I'm going to be calling you in 5 minutes time. And maybe it's an LA number. And then I'll call and I go, hey, sorry for bothering you, but I wanted to talk to you because we hadn't spoken. And I know that you'd mentioned something about this or you signed up for this or that. And I will just reach out and call. And I run a, again, no kind of pitch, but I run a private community called Sims Distillery. And every now and then, and it happens more often than not, I'll just phone up the new applicants before they've been sent the credit card. Oh, excuse me. Before they've been sent the credit card form, before they've been accepted into the whatever. And I'll just phone them up and I go, hey, what bothered you so much that you would apply for this? You know, what's your problem? And I'll leave it at that. And people will be like, oh, it's funny. This is marketing, an issue I got a problem with distribution. And it got me thinking. And because so many people were like, oh, yeah, he phoned me. Why is that so outstanding?
Because no one's doing it.
And there you go. And here's the thing. How much does it cost you to do it compared to how much does it cost you not to do it? And that's the key thing. I'm phoning people. One of my great hobbies I like to do, and I'm notorious for doing this. I'm actually just getting over a cold, so please excuse the snuffles. Whenever I go to a hotel, I always get the hotel stationery. The reason I get hotel stationery is because it costs me nothing. Okay. But also I will go in there and I'll go, hey, Bobby, I'd love to give you a call next week. Is that okay? This is my number that I'll be giving you a call from. Text me if you wish, just to say hi, but I'll be chatting with you next Tuesday. Okay. And I'll just write that on the stationery. I'll also just have my kids write it. You know, I won't even always write the damn thing. And all of a sudden, my prospects are getting an envelope from like such and such hotel from Rome or such and such hotel from Venice. And they're like, where's it? And the curiosity factor, the anticipation. And now they're getting a handwritten. All it cost me was a stamp and the dare to do it.
Yeah.
And Jay, I love Jay. Jay's actually a neighbor of mine and a good friend, known him for years. Jay just focuses on that. Make real, key being real, connections. And a real connection is not an email. Hey, did you speak to that person? Yeah, I sent them an email. That's not a connection.
Yeah.
You've just basically gone up on the top of a multi-story car park, thrown your shit off the edge, and just hope someone grabs it and goes, "Ooh, funny enough, I need that." Yeah. That's a turkey shoot. That is not a connection.
Yeah, that's very valid. I want to switch gears here a second. I want to ask you a very direct question, something that I get asked occasionally, but since you're in the coaching arena as well, and you've been coaching people for a very long time, I want to ask you, right? In your opinion, what makes a good coach?
For a start, not one size fits all. And that's the thing that kind of like bothered me right at the beginning. I actually resisted coaching. I'd done a lot of work with branding. I'd done a lot of work with helping different people out. And I was like, oh, I'm not a coach. I'm not going to be a coach. And every time you looked up on a coach, there was like these 12-week or 1-year programs. And I thought, well, how can I join a 1-year program when you don't know what my problem is? And it kind of bothered me for a start. And so I avoided it. And I had people come to my speakeasy events or they'd see me speak and they'd be like, hey, I'm working on a problem. I'm like, well, I can help you that. And they'll be like, oh, great. Will you coach me? And I'll be like, well, if that's what you want to call it, you know? So I think any coach needs to have a conversation to find out first of all, can they get in the weeds with that person? You know, can they relate to where they are? Can they acknowledge and understand where they are? Can they understand where they're going? And can they go toe to toe with you? Like if you said, hey, Steve, I'd like to take you on as a coach for me, please, because I really want to, get into the Olympics playing tennis. Well, I don't know anything about the Olympics, and I know shit all about tennis. So, it's hard for me to be able to take on anyone on as a coach without the understanding. And far too many people focus their vetting on whether or not the credit card actually clears. And that's what upsets me. Coaching is a one-on-one in the roots, in the weeds. Both you and your client are going to get scuffed, cut, and hurt as you climb out. And if you're not prepared to do that and face the good and the ugly, you really shouldn't be coaching.
Yeah, I agree. It's really valid. I have a mindset on it too. You mentioned here at the beginning, especially people who are just getting into hiring a coach oftentimes need that generalist, that person that could help them in multiple different areas. And my thought process and what I've experienced over years because I've done tons of coaching for myself over the last 10 years. And this is also how I see things translate in business as well. When you first start that small business, people are going out there and they're hiring generalists because they need an office manager who can do a little bit of marketing. They can send some emails. They can do bookkeeping entries and whatnot. And then as the business grows, as the individual grows, they need to start going out and looking for the sharpshooter, the coach who's a specialist in this very specific thing. Right. For instance, one of the ones for me, and you've probably experienced this too, I made the decision one day, crazy as it may sound, right, for those listening, is one day I said, hey, I'm going to go write a book. Cool.
Yeah.
Right. So what I wound up doing was hiring a woman. She had the title of editor on her stationery and her email signature. But at the end of the day, she was really a writing coach because that's what she helped me do. Right. So that was my first probably version of going and looking for that specialist coach. And I think as you evolve, as you work with more people, as you develop more, as you become a better human, a better leader, better father, better business person, whatever you want to call it, you've got to change your mindset and what you're looking for. Don't look for that 12-month program that's just, oh, hey, we run everyone through the same shit from week 1 to week 52. Cool. I need someone who's been in the trenches, who has already accomplished what I'm trying to accomplish. And I know and have a really good feeling that they can help me get from point A to point B.
Yeah, we found that very problematic because to add to that statement, and your statement is totally accurate, the downside is that most people don't know what they need. They don't know what they're looking for. You know, there are many great people out there that can help you write a book, but if you don't know how to promote the book, then it's dead in the weeds. You know, so there's a lot of things that you may not be aware of. So what we do, for argument's sake, is anyone that looks at us at being a coach, we make them join our community. It's not very expensive, but we make our people join the Sims Distillery so that they can ask the questions and really start to identify what the problem is. Everyone says, oh, I've got no money. Well, have you got no money, or have you got no direction? Have you got no ability? Have you got no relationships? Have you got no affiliates? You know, there's other answers that would create the solution to that problem. And 9 times out of 10, the problem's one thing, you know, your fitness, your health, your mindset, your money, but there can be 50 solutions and avenues to solve that problem. So most people don't know what they don't know. So I always suggest being in the right room, being able to ask the questions and go, well, what would you do? And get other people to validate. So we always make sure they go through that before we kind of pluck them back and go, right. Yeah, and this is a Jay Abraham thing. I don't want to take credit for this, just in case Jay listens to it and then yells at me. If you want the right answer, ask the right question. And 9 times out of 10, you don't know what question you need to be asking.
Yeah, I agree. What are some key indicators that an individual, or even for you yourself, because you've done a lot of this as you've gone and come through your career, what are the key indicators that you're actually in the right room?
The first one is probably fear. You know, walking into a room and going, oh shit, everyone is more successful than me. Everyone here has got that shit together. Everyone here knows that stuff. When you walk into that kind of room, then that's probably the right room. I remember walking into a room once with Richard Branson, and we got out of the lift and the elevator, and this was in London. There were some real big power people in there. And as we walked into the room, he looked at me and he went, great, a room full of failures. And I thought, shit, that's not good. And I really kind of like, oh crap. And he looked at me, he caught the fact that my frequency had changed because of that statement. And he went, no, don't get me wrong. Everyone in this room has failed. They've just allowed it to refine them, not define them. This is the room you want to be in. You know, and I thought, that's right. So all of a sudden it changed my context. So now I go into the room. You don't want to listen to the lottery winner about financial advice. You know, you don't want to listen to a girl that was born with a gene that keeps her eternally slim and get freaking fitness advice from her. You know, I want to listen to the 350-pound whale that worked their shit off to become the sculpted person they are. That's the person I'm going to listen to. The person that's been bankrupt 3 times and then built that company to $10 million, that's the person I want to listen to. So I always go in there and I want to know who's got the scars, who's wearing them. And now here's the key defining factor of whether or not that's the right room. Will they share the scars? You know, if you screwed up 20 times and then you got it right, but you're not going to share with me, it's not the right room. So you need people in a room that are going to support and challenge. You don't want cheerleaders. You don't want people going, oh, you can be great. Yeah, you can do it. Bollocks. That's your grand. That makes you feel good, but it ain't getting anywhere. You want to get people around you going, should you? And if you're going to answer me yes, then tell me why. You want people to check. Now, that's not disrespectful. That's not doubting Thomas's. That's people getting you to refine you to be the sharpest person you can. That's when you know it's the right room.
Yeah, I agree. I've found that when you get into the right room, Curtis, what you're saying here, the people who are willing to challenge you and ask you tough questions that challenges the notion of the story you've been telling yourself for X amount of years, those are the ones who make you say, oh shit, I got to stop here and think about that, because that's a really hard question that the person asked me. And I often find that when some of these certain questions are being asked or you're being challenged, it aggravates me. It pisses me off and I get hot and I almost want to get defensive and snap back. And I have to, these are triggers to me. And it's like, oh, wait, hold on a second. Before you're an asshole, and because words are powerful and once they're out of your mouth, you cannot get them back. Before you're an asshole, pause, evaluate the situation. Is this a lesson that I need to learn here? And 9 times out of 10, it is a lesson. And it's taken me many, many, many years to figure that out, sir.
I got a little story for you, if you don't mind me sharing.
I love stories.
So I ran a very successful concierge firm, which near the end of its period, I kind of disliked. I was, not always able to deal with the clients I wanted to deal with. I was getting, clients I didn't want to deal with, but they had great paychecks. So I was trying to build a online app travel/concierge firm. So I was putting all of my thoughts down onto paper. And for the first time ever and never since, I wrote a business plan. Okay. And I wrote this amazing business plan, and it talked about projections, and I had graphs and I had pictures. It was very elaborate. Excuse me. And so I produced this PowerPoint, 60 pages of absolutely stunning color and graphs and shit. And I phoned up Jay and I said, Jay, I want $1 million. He's like, what? I want you to stick $1 million into my project, and I'm going to tell you why you can treble your money. By the end of the year, you need to see this. So he said, come down and pitch me then. So I went down there with him, and I had my PowerPoint, and I was like, right, this is going to be it. I'm going to land Jay as my first boy there. So I opened up this PowerPoint and I went page by page by page. And I went through this stunning, couldn't argue with it, best PowerPoint known to mankind. Oscar winner this was. If there was an Oscar for PowerPoints, my baby had just won it. It cleaned it up. And at the end of it, I looked at him and I was feeling real cocky and confident. I went, well, and he just grinned, and he does what he does. He just kind of rubs his little beard on his chin. He's just doing this. And he looks down and he said, oh, my boy. And I'll never forget this. He looked up at me and he went, I was just expecting more.
Oof.
And I went, how the you think I was? And he said, well, knowing your ability, your strengths, your characters, your relationships, I was just expecting a bit more. And I realized even I had settled. Now, we took one element of that PowerPoint and we went to an established group, sold that idea to the group for a percentage of the profits. Okay. And I split it with Jay because it was his idea. We did very handsomely out of it. And we did nothing. We literally just went to them with the concept, and that was it. They took it. And I hadn't had to do the entire thing, which I would have had to have got staff, website, people, computers. I didn't have to do any of that. We didn't have to raise any money. We did incredibly well. So the point is, you need those people that are going to look at you and go, is that it? They're just, and as your face said, that just makes you go, oh, shit, I could have gone higher. And many people don't. And that's another one of the concepts and one of the reasons why people don't go for stupid goals. They go for what they feel as though they can achieve. What do you know you can achieve? You've never tried.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that bothers me today.
Let's talk about writing books here for a minute, if you don't mind.
Oh, God, I've got some colorful stories you wouldn't believe in that.
Okay. I'm all for it. I mean, I have my experience. I wrote one, I co-authored a second. I started a second full-blown one for myself, and my style of writing has a lot of lessons in life and business, but they're told through stories that I've personally experienced. And I hit the pause button on the second book because over the last, we'll call it 2 years, my life has taken some massive twists and turns, and it's gone from full blown left to full blown right and everywhere in between. And I said, wait, now's not the time. Let's continue living this story before I decide to go tell it. But for you, what was the process like? What was the decision to, hey, I want to go do this? Because it's a project. People don't realize how much work it actually is.
It's horrible.
It is not fun. I will tell you that. What was the process? What was the decision? Did you go and get picked up by a publishing house, or was it more of a self-directed thing? And then what was the actual process of you putting the content together, editing and finishing and publishing the book?
All right. So anyone out there trying to write a book, get your pins ready, because you're going to hate me for the next part of this story. Okay. I was at a party in New York getting drunk with this woman. And I need to preface this. There's a lot of people that think a published book by a publishing house is better than self-publishing. There is a stigma between it because anyone can self-publish a book. Therefore, if any book's self-published, it automatically must be shit. Okay? Well, tell Dave Goggins that. There you go. One of the most successful books out there, and all of his books, and that was self-published through Tucker Max. So, all right. So here you go. Let me go back to this. I knew nothing about writing books, and to be completely blunt, I'm not well known for reading many. You know, I do like to read books, but I've never, that hasn't been something I've done all of my life. I was at a party, getting drunk, telling this girl some stories, and she turned around, she said, "You need to write a book. We're going to write your book." And I went, "Sure." And I went home and slept it off. Had no idea. The following Thursday, I got a book deal faxed to me. And I was like, and my wife was like, "Did you pitch a book?" And I'm like, "No." She's like, "Well, when you were in New York, did you speak to someone about a book?" I was like, "No." She said, "What did you do?" I said, "Well, I had a couple of meetings. They were shit. I went out, met a girl, and I got drunk. And she was going to write my book. She sent me a note. Turns out it was one of the heads of Simon & Schuster. Now, again, this goes back to always making sure you're in the right room. I was in New York. I had pre-booked where I was going to be, what's going on. This event's going on. Fine, I'm going to get into that event. I got into the event. So I always make sure that I'm very, very critical of the room that I'm in. Okay. And if I walk into a room and I find it weak, shit, crap, I leave. You know, it's like walking onto a football pitch and suddenly find you're playing against 7-year-olds. You know, don't look brilliant. Don't stay there and just kick all the 7-year-olds in the tits. You know, just get off the pitch and go home. You know, and that's the way I work. So I didn't know that this had come through. So it came through. We got this offer. Then I kind of obviously crapped my pants. You know, I don't know anything about writing a book. Again, I went down to Jay and we decided to front load it. Now, when you front load it, it means that you don't get all of the residuals, or you don't get many of the residuals on the back end. They pay you really big up front. So I did that. So I got a massive paycheck. And I thought to myself, this is great. I've got a massive paycheck, wrote a book. Woo, daddy's an author. But this is what happened to my head. I now didn't care if it sold. Now, this sounds terrible, and Simon Schuster always hate it when I bring out this. By the way, Simon Schuster have been absolutely fantastic. But, you know, I never really give a shit. So I thought to myself, I've already been paid. I can write the book I want to write. If someone's going to read my book, I'm not going to color it up. I'm not going to do a turkey shoot and go, "Oh, this is for the ladies that love gold. These are for those people hugging trees. If anyone's confused about that, oh, this is the book for you." Sod that. This is for aggravated entrepreneurs who want to know how to get shit done. And they need to focus on the art of making things happen, because currently you're not. And I thought, I'm going to make it that blunt. So I did. Now, of course, I got paid. I didn't know it was going to take off. And I got a ghostwriter to help me that Simon & Schuster. Now, Simon & Schuster gave me 3 ghostwriters. Picking a ghostwriter literally is like dating.
Yeah.
You know, you need to make sure you're in line. First couple, I wasn't. And I was like, this is never going. Third one, we could talk about motorbikes. We could talk about anything, you know? And so it was really cool. And it was a good experience at the beginning, but then it's like doing a therapy session every couple of days, and it is mind-numbing. And then the book comes out, and you're like, well, what now? You know? I didn't get a check in the post for like $2 billion, you know, so what was the freaking point of that? And I remember Jay saying to me, when we walked into his house, when I had the facts, he said to me, are you ready for what this book is going to do to and for you? I was like, what? And he repeated it. And I looked at him, and I had not even walked through the door of his house. And I went, I got this, Jack, you know, cocky little shit me. Yeah, I got this. And he was like, all right. And he said to me something at that time. He said to me, there has never been a millionaire author.
He's right.
Yeah, he's right. Now, loads of people are going to go, well, what about J.K. Rowling? She sold her books to movies. The movies made her a millionaire. Okay. But you are never going to get a beach house from releasing a book. But from what the book gets you into, that'll buy you your beach house and your yacht. Yeah. So it's that kind of thing. So I had all this on my head. The first thing that I noticed was it's like feeding an alligator, kicking it out your front door, and then being responsible for whoever else it bites. You know, you don't know them, but all of a sudden you're getting a text. You don't know that person, all of a sudden you're getting an email, or you're getting someone comment on Facebook, or you'll get someone from the other side of the planet on the beach, and next to them they'll be like, oh, and I'm reading this really great book by this guy called Steve D. You're like, holy shit. You know, you've got no control. You literally just thrown it in the lake and it's gone down or upstream. And you've got no. But then I did the audio version. That was painful.
Oh, terrible.
Yeah, that was doing an audio book is horrible. I've got an answer for that as well in a second.
Good.
Whenever you do an audio book, you have to. In fact, funny thing, an audio book is like standing in a portaloo at one of those concerts with all of these little rubber, you know, triangle things pointing at you. The first day I walked into the studio to do my book, I had a pair of these like nylon cargo pants. And apparently the rustling could be
way too much noise.
Yeah, so I was sent home, and I just came back in with like a pair of shorts on, and I had to stand dead still, and it was horrible. And there's like one window in this portaloo with my editor that would just every now and then go, put her hand up, and she'd be like, we're going to go back. You said they are instead of they are it. You know, you've got to change that one. So it was very pedantic and very annoying. I hated it. Yeah. So I released it. And it was painful, and it did really well. I was getting picked up for speaking gigs, and that's when the whole coaching thing started, and that's when we started building the Sims Distillery and everything else. And it was really good. It really took my life into a great arena, but it was painful. And I said right there and then, glad that book did well because I'm never doing it again. And then here's one thing. Here's an important nugget for anyone considering this. Then I tried to do a course. Someone came to me and they went, oh, you should turn the book into a course. Soon as I started doing that, I got a call from Simons and Schuster's legal team. When you're ready, Steve, let's converse regarding the residuals from that course. And I said, why? You know, why should you be getting anything out of that course? They went, well, we own those stories. So when you actually sell to a publishing house, you are selling the rights and the ownership. So you want to do much after that with that content, then you have to bring them in. Now, not everyone's like that, but you are now in a relationship, and that became something. So I always thought to myself, oh, I don't like that. What entrepreneur ever likes to be owned? We become entrepreneurs so that we don't answer to anyone. Now we release a book and now we're answering to someone. So this became problematic. So when COVID came across, and I said to you this at the beginning of the show, I get aggravated. You know, things piss me off. And I can't get over the beginning of COVID when you had all these jackasses going onto Facebook going, well, I finished, you know, The Sopranos. What else can I binge watch? And I'm thinking, you've been given this time. Never, in history, we've been given a time when your competitor is in exactly the same boat as you. You know, they can't be going out. They can't be doing this. They can't be running banner adverts. No one cares. You've got to focus on you. You had a fantastic opportunity. So I started getting very aggravated. I started writing blogs. I started writing articles. I started, throwing stuff up on my socials. And a few people said, are you going to write a book on this? And I went, yeah. And I spoke to Tucker at the time, Tucker Max. At the time, he was still part of Scribe. And I said, I'm going to do it, but I want to own my rights. I want to own my story. And so, again, got a ghostwriter. We ended up going through two. Second one was a home run again. And we started it's basically a 9 to 12 month process of releasing it. And the book came out last 2022 October.
Okay.
And hit bestseller in 2 hours. It's now been translated into Polish, Russian, Ukraine, Mandarin Chinese. I think Thai and Korean has been done at the moment.
Yeah.
But here's something for you to consider next time. People love audiobooks now.
Yes.
Okay. They love listening to them at the gym, driving, on the Peloton, whatever. So I knew I had to do this audio, but I knew that it was akin to the worst experience of my life.
Sure.
So I said to a friend of mine, I don't want to do this. And he said, well, why don't you just video it and then just scrape the audio? Now, when you video something, you're now in a studio with a camera, much more open air. You got much more of an environment around you. So I videoed the book. Yeah. And I videoed the book, and we scraped it and we put it out on audio, and Go for Stupid is on audio. But then all of a sudden, we're left with all these videos.
That's your course.
Well, it wasn't so much of a course. We thought of ourselves, we were going to use it as content, and we were going to all these ideas. And then one day my son turned around and said, why don't you give it away? You're doing well on the book. People that read books are still going to buy the book. People that love audio are still just going to get the audio. Why don't you give the video chapters away? So we dressed it up. It's 12 chapters. We put it up on there. It's at goforstupid.com, and we give it away. There's no hook. There's nothing. And we say, just take it, watch it, listen to it. I think he said that someone 1.5 times the speed or something and finished it in 2 hours.
Yeah.
And so we're just going, just take it, do something with it. And that's what it is. So, but the beauty is it's mine. Yeah. And I can do anything I want with it. So am I for or against self-publishing versus publishing? If you've got a good book in you, go publishing, self-publishing route, because you've got the ownership and you've got the rights. And the world of big city publishing now, most people don't know Simon & Schuster, Random House, Penguin. They don't know those companies.
They don't care.
No. If you've got a good book, you've got a good book. And again, you don't believe me? Ask Dave Goggins.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I wasn't in a position, I didn't have the notoriety, the authority, nor did I have the want or the bank stack ready to go out and start pitching and waiting for someone to pick up my book. So after having several conversations with my editor, we just opted to go the self-publish route. And, it still has its challenges. You mentioned this briefly before. I want to dive into it because I see most people who decide to become an author, write a book, whatever. This is where I find they fail the most. I mean, obviously some of them just have shit content and they probably shouldn't write a book. It is what it is. Okay.
There's a lot of that.
Yeah. But let's exclude them for a minute. Let's say you've got someone who's got decent content. They put a good book out. I see people fail miserably in the marketing aspect of the book. They don't brand themselves as an individual, and they have no marketing machine behind the launch of the book. And not just the launch of the book, but how are you marketing this book years later after it's been released and out there? So what's the process for you? Let's look at the second book, because that was self-directed for self-published for you.
Yeah.
What did that marketing look like? What was the lead up? What was the teasers that were going out? What was there a pre-sale? And then what are you doing today to continue selling copies?
So before you put pen to paper, what's the point? Yeah, that's the first thing. Are you writing a book to get people to change? Are you writing a book to get people to take you on as a coach? Are you writing a book as a credibility grab, to become an authority, to get on more stages? How you write the book dictates the route you need to take. Okay, so you need to understand, where is the end goal of this book? Where is it taking you? And then you've got to channel everything towards that end goal. So, and people don't realize writing the book isn't actually the end. Excuse me. It's all of the marketing around it. They're all encompassing. Write a book tomorrow, stick it on your desk. Great, good for you. But writing a book properly includes all of that marketing. You've got to understand that each element is vital. The first thing you've got to do is literally just go onto your socials and go, hey, just need to let you know that I finally decided today I started writing my book. And get your people, even if it's 10, on that journey with you. Hey, I'm looking at different covers. I would do cover competitions. I'm going to upset a few people out there. I'd already chosen the cover because I bloody liked the thing and it was already in production. But I put up 10 covers. Thank the Lord, most people like the one I picked. Okay. But those people, I then did a cherry pick from there and I gave them a prize. Okay. And then the titles. I've got these 4 titles. I want to this is the title, but what do you think of the font? You know, and I got people included and more people got on the back. Why are you writing the book, Steve? Because I'm aggravated with the way that people communicate and the goals that they go for. So all of a sudden, the whole thing's coming out. And this continued from day one before a single word had been written. So as it's building up, also buy your URLs. I found a lot of stupid people do that. They produce the book, and they've got this book, and then they go, right, let me go on GoDaddy. Oh, shit, the URL's gone. So, you know, when you've come up with the title, grab the URL, okay? So you've got the URL, you're putting it out there, you're leaking it out there, and good authors do that. There'll be a little leak of them just kind of like, just making some final tweaks to the edition. 3 months' time, and this baby's out. You know, just things like that. Just getting them onto it. And, of course, like then you put it up. I did this time, and as I say, it hit bestseller in like 2 hours. And it was coming out. Hey, be ready for tomorrow. On this day, I'll let you know. You send them out an email. You send them out a text. It's out the following day. Thank you. It made _1. I'm so floored. Yeah. I love throwing a party. In fact, on my website, stevedsims.com, / I think it's books. You can actually see 2 of the videos from the parties that I threw, and I threw them in a pub. So I didn't take over Wembley Stadium. I took over a bar, and we all got shit-faced on some really good old fashions. And I just invited people, and that's all we did. And you just see people getting more and more drunk as the video goes on. But that was very relatable for a lot of people.
Yeah, sure it is.
And once that's all done, then the trick is you release the hard book, the hardback, then you release maybe the audio version. 3 months later, you release the paperback. So you've got these stepping stones, all right? And of course, now where we are now, a year later, we're releasing the videos. So this has been over a year that I've had content from that book that I can constantly keep it going out there and constantly keep it having the comments, the reviews, the purchases. And a lot of people are still watching the video version and then buying the book. So, you know, I think you've got to realize that releasing a book is work in itself. Once you've released it, you got to keep feeding it and you've got to keep peppering it out there. But a lot of the work is done before the book actually even hits the shelf.
I love it. I got a term for you, and you can steal this if you like, because you just gave me the idea. I'm going to call it interactive marketing.
All right. Yeah.
Because that's literally what you're doing with that process. It's like, hey, people, this is some content you're marketing. You're telling them what you're doing. Hey, this is the project I'm working on, and I'm willing to accept your input. Now, whether you take that input or not is here nor there, but it makes them feel as if they had something to do with your choice.
Oh, we would also release the first chapter. We would give away the first chapter and just go, hey, there's no hook, there's no line, there's no upsell, but you've been with me right from the beginning. This is the first chapter. What do you think?
Yeah, love it.
And people love to get what they can get involved in.
Yeah, I love it. Sarah, this has been fantastic. We're coming up here on the end of an hour, and I wanted to just say thank you for coming in here and just dropping your wisdom, your knowledge, your experience. It's been a fantastic conversation, and I really enjoyed my time with you. So thank you.
It's been a pleasure. It doesn't feel like an hour. It feels like about 15 minutes.
20 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know you've mentioned it multiple times throughout this conversation, which I think is awesome. But what's the best place people can connect with you? Maybe go find the book and learn more about Steve D. Sims.
Well, that's the easy one. SteveDSims.com. Steve D. Sims on Instagram. Only one M in Sims. But goforstupid.com. Get a free video book, but then just don't waste your time. Do something with it.
I love it. Thanks again, sir. This has been fantastic, and I can't wait for this one to go live.
Look after yourself, pal. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Step It Up Entrepreneur Podcast. Make sure you head over to stepitupentrepreneur.com and make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode of the Step It Up Entrepreneur Podcast.